Because really, that's what I should be doing at the place I am. I should be making it as easy as possible for my guys to do their job, and making sure that we have a vision for where we want to be in 5 and 10 years. So, and it's a constant battle because you sometimes don't have.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sledgehammers in the Office podcast, where we celebrate the heavy hitters on the job site and in the office. Today, I'm joined by the president of Interstate Battery Arizona, Mr. Dave Walworth. Sir, welcome to the show.
Hey, good to be on.
Well, we're happy to have you here. We start with all our guests. What is your previous work experience? What do you do currently? And if you can kind of flesh out a little bit of those details before we start peppering you with questions.
Okay. Well, I've been at Interstate Battery so long, sometimes I forget what my previous work experience is. But I started out of college, had an electrical engineering degree, and went to work for Texas Instruments in Dallas, Texas, doing a lot of defense work. That's back when they had a defense business, and they ended up selling it. Then moved over wanted to get back to Phoenix. My wife and I both wanted to get back to Phoenix. Dallas wasn't a place we wanted to spend a lot of time. So ended up coming back and working for Honeywell. And really wasn't there that long, maybe a year and a half or two. And that was at a time when as industries go through ups and downs, I remember as I was onboarding at Honeywell, HR, they sat down, and I remember the gal goes, "Wow, you're the last one in." I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Yeah, we just did a hiring freeze." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, well, a lot of times after the freeze comes the cuts." But I was there. There really weren't cuts, but I was there a year and a half, and I could tell things were softening. And I remember going to my boss and saying, "Hey, you got to lay someone off. I'm your guy." Because by then my dad and I had talked, and I was ready to come into the family business. He had purchased a small little battery distribution business here in Phoenix in 1981, and I'd worked off and on in it through a little bit of junior high, then a little bit of high school, and then often did my deal, went to U of A. I'm a Wildcat, but oddly enough, an ASU football fan. Don't know how that happened, but I've never lost my affinity for ASU. So we talked, and he's like, this would be a good time. We've been growing. There's a lot happening, and I think I'm ready to bring you on board. And so I'm going to say that was in, 92, 93. Came aboard Interstate, and since then I've gone through that. I came aboard as the general manager, and eventually in 2001 my dad passed away, and by 2003 I was able to purchase the business from my mom. And I generally tell people my dad was promoted in 2001, and he was a man of faith, and he's doing just fine, I tell people. So since 2003, I've owned Interstate Battery of Arizona, and we've had a tremendous amount of growth during that time. And in June, I took over all of northern Arizona also. So the business has expanded this year also. Kind of an unplanned expansion, and it sounds strange, but it kind of came suddenly and without really a chance to strategize or plan. But we're getting through it. A little extra stress this summer than I had not planned. I planned on more golf and more out of town, and there was almost no golf and no out of town, but it's been really good.
Yeah. How was it, or maybe I want to kind of start with this real quick. What is the relationship between Interstate Battery of Arizona and then Interstate Battery just at large? I see that there's the two companies, and is that more of like a franchise deal, or how does that work?
So Interstate Battery of America is the marketing corporation that distributes, the distributed marketing corporation for Interstate Battery, and then there are about 215 of us that are independent distributors of Interstate. So we have a territory that it is our job to build market share and sell batteries in. And it is it's not a franchise agreement, it's a wholesale distribution agreement.
Okay.
What's interesting about it, though, is I also own another business called Interstate All Battery Center, and that is a franchise with a different division of Interstate Battery. So I have a wholesale distribution business and a franchise business, both working with Interstate.
Okay. And then,
so I'll get a little of both.
And then just, I'm assuming like the way they have a lot of overlap at the corporate level, you guys have a lot of overlap at the state level.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
And most of the so the All Battery Center does all kinds of batteries, like for hospitals and alarm panels and even watches. In the old days, cell phones, before you couldn't really replace the batteries without breaking a lot of stuff. But kind of in the middle they meet, because we have a lot of, the All Battery Center has a lot of commercial customers that are small users of batteries that a wholesale distributor can't profitably serve, but a business to business type of operation can.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's reasonable overlap.
Going back to the beginning, how was the relationship with you and your dad working together? I know that sometimes working with family can create a little bit of friction. Sometimes it's like just some people, they fall into it and it's just, no, it's the family business. It's what we do. So how was that relationship between the two of you? What kind of challenges did you guys face? And then how has it been as you've picked it up and then taken it from there?
So we had generally a good relationship. We cleared the office a few times. We had sometimes we had some strong disagreements. In general, we worked very well together and didn't take our conflicts home with us. So when we were done with the day, we were done with the day, and we pick it up the next day. So in general, it's a really good relationship. My dad is I tell people my dad is a great number one guy. He was a great number one guy. He had the charisma and great leader. And I think I was a better number two guy, because I'm analytic, being an engineer, a little more to myself. But I've had to learn not to be. But when I thought it was a really good mix when we had him and me, because he would get the guys all charged up. He wouldn't really care about the numbers, as long as they were good, as long as they were going forward. He cared about the bottom line numbers. It's just how to get to them. He was like, I don't know. And my job was to do that.
Yeah.
And when he got promoted, as I say, I took over that, and I realized I had to become more of really a people person. And it hasn't been difficult, but it's. I do think I tell people straight out. I go, he was a better number one guy, better CEO, leader than I think I'll probably ever be.
Really?
Yeah. So
when you look at that transition that you've had to make, there's a lot of people who try and, I'd kind of say, almost box themselves in with, I'm an extrovert or I'm an introvert, and it's just once there's that label put on them, they put it on themselves or someone else puts it on them, like that's the box you live in. Obviously, that's not what happened in your case. How was that? How did you go about saying no? Like I'm going to step outside of that. Was it more just a mental decision? Hey, here's the way I'm going to be living into this from now on, or did it take a lot of practice, and were there things that you more preferred along the way?
It wasn't terribly difficult because I'm not an extreme either way.
Okay.
I'm very good with people. Do I like to eat lunch alone? Yeah, I do. But I just knew the job function is going to require, business is about people, and you have to communicate and manage people. So you got to do what you got to do, and a lot of times you hire your weaknesses, and you work to develop your weaknesses. And I've worked hard to do both of those, and it's a great continuing journey. I truly love the challenge of going and doing business every day. So it's you see what it is a big mirror. You go out and you try to win in the field, and you realize, hey, I got issues, and it's kind of like squeezing Jell-O, where it's going to come out from all your fingers, and you realize so there's always something wrong. There's always something wrong with you. There's always something wrong with the business. So sometimes you have to step back once in a while and say, hey, there's some right stuff too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's easy to see all your deficiencies when this happens.
Yeah. So how have you gone about building that team around you and putting those people in place? Do you have certain things that you look for in people that you bring in, certain characteristics, if there's leaders that you're looking to bring in, or even just have in your circle?
I don't like to hire anyone that their first characteristic is integrity, because you can work with a lot of other issues, but integrity, and the other thing is you can't have you really can't fix a bad attitude. So you look for integrity first, you look for a lot of the things that don't really have to do with their job skills. And in the end, they have to have the job skills. But the first thing you look for is this person that, when you think of integrity, you think of trust. Mm-hmm. Is this a person that can be trusted? And then is this a person that can fit into a business? Because a lot of people cause a lot of issues in businesses that they don't need to. Can they play in a team? So, and so that's, so first of all, you're looking at integrity. You're looking at attitude, you're looking at teamwork, and you haven't even thought about their skill yet. And a lot of the skills have developed. I mean, okay, I trained as an electrical engineer, and now I'm doing this. Well, how much engineering are you doing now? Not a lot. Not a lot of what I was trained for.
No.
I'm engineering every day, so it's the thought process works, but
right.
I'm engineering every day. So when I look to build a team, I'm looking for people that I can work with. And in the end, you got to like them too.
Yeah.
It's hard to work, especially as you have at your executive level. If you have executives you really don't like, it's like, we're going to spend a lot of time together. We need to have some chemistry here.
Yeah.
And so, building that team, and when you do, you look for that, and you know that you need to invest in those people. And I've got, my two key people, one's been with me 33 years, and one has been with me 24 years. Can't remember on that one. And my my head office, my office manager, after 38 years, retired last year. So,
wow.
So the big thing you look for is people that will stay with you, and people you have chemistry with, because if you're retraining people all the time, you're just not going to get very far.
Right. How do you start to filter for that when you're bringing someone in? Obviously, it's once you have someone who's got that proven track record, it's if you're 5 years in, a decade in, you have a pretty firm grasp on who they are as a person. But if I'd say even now, but maybe going back to the earlier days when you're having to develop some of those relationships, was it everything seems to pass the sniff test. We're going to find out once we're rubbing shoulders together, and if it doesn't work, then
You talking about in hiring and recruiting, or someone that's been with me?
hiring and recruiting.
Hiring and recruiting.
Because I feel like there's a lot of those core value buzzwords that get thrown around as far like if it's integrity, honesty, like excellence or whatever it is. But I feel this is probably a personal opinion and bias on this, but I feel like people say the word and they don't always know what it means, or they
Right.
don't know how to even filter for it. So it's like when you have people who have been around for 25 to 30 years, it's like, I think you understand what it is. So I'm sitting on the other side of the table, like I'm at square one. How do I start to identify the people that when I'm sitting across the table from someone, is this the person that I'm going to be like linking myself to for 30 years? It's how would you go about saying, hey, here's how I would filter that out?
So I can't say that I've been good at that.
Okay.
Okay. In the interview process, there's a lot that goes on that you don't see. And when once they start working for you is when you can tell pretty quickly what their habits are like, just how they conduct themselves. Do they show up a little bit early for work? So when you're doing the interview process, a lot of it depends on the level that you're looking for. When you're looking for someone who's going to be at an entry level, you're looking for the basics. You're looking for a guy that looks you in the eye, a guy that shows up, like for the initial interview, shows up like he cares, like maybe he washed his jeans, wore a collared shirt, acts interested, asks some questions, and just like you, has maybe taken a couple minutes to look at our website. Who's Interstate? When I ask them, what do you know about us? They're like, no, not much. I'm like, you didn't spend 5 minutes in the parking lot to just look. So someone who's going to show a little initiative is what you're looking for. And those ground level people are great because basically their job interview is their first 5 years of work. Because you bring them in, they're not cutting it. You try to cut the ties fast. They're doing well. You're like, I need to find a place to get this person continuing to move, give them some more to do, and see how they handle it. Mm-hmm. So, I think the best way. Now, if you're hiring it further up, you spend some time. Get to know who the family is. If he's married, take him and his wife out and see how they interact with each other. And so I think that, because I said that, as at a position where you're going to have a lot more interaction, you need to find out what your chemistry is with the person too.
Yeah.
So you spend some time and you don't hurry. And I think that's it. There's just levels. At the first level basically you're paying them as they interview.
That makes sense.
Come aboard. Let's see how you do.
Yep.
And let's find you something to do.
Yeah.
And my most successful, my most successful employees have been ones that have come on like that, and I've seen in them an ability to really take it further.
Yeah.
So,
switching gears a little bit, something that interested me, and when I get to sit down with guys who've been doing it, been in their vocation for a long time, is to know, like, all right, what does the day-to-day look like now? Because obviously you're farther down the business journey than I am. So, but what does your day-to-day look like now? What did it look like when you were starting at the 10-year mark, 20-year mark? And then how do those compare? And if you were to almost look back and say, hey, if I'm an advisor to me back then, it'd be like, hey, buddy, maybe adjust this or do it that way.
I think the big thing that people need to know is it's never glamorous. It's hard work. Mm-hmm. It's funny as time went on, my kids used to say, "Dad, you don't work." because I was coming home. I actually have dirty hands today because I had to do some stuff. But, Dad, you don't work. I go, guys, do you know that I supply capital and direction to the company? And that's hard work. In fact, it's harder when you're not throwing batteries around. There's no way to get rid of stress. So sitting up in a chair with, hundreds of thousands of dollars of bills that have come in, and accounts that are unhappy, accounts that are happy, accounts that want to develop a relationship, personnel issues, all of this stuff. It's just not glamorous. It's hard work. And so I think that's the big thing, because the guys used to joke, they're like, hey, it's great to be king. I go, yeah, it's great to be king till they come for your head.
Yeah. I don't want to skip over that real quick because I think that's a very important piece to it. A lot of people do think that, okay, you get to a certain level of management, you get to be an owner.
Yeah, I just go out and golf all day.
Right.
And,
And then I feel like there's the entrepreneur space that makes it all about, man, like, yeah, I just work so hard. And it's like, but like, just, I believe you, but what do you do? Like, and I feel like there's almost this just gap between like, okay, whoever it is, they work hard, but like, if it is the managing the accounts or people coming in, or the accounts versus the bills, stuff like that, how much of your time gets pulled in any of those directions? And then kind of going back to the question as far as, has it been the same? Like if we were to go back 10 years, would you say, hey, I'm doing the same thing, the scale is just different, I've got more plates that are spinning, I've built the personnel and the team around me to handle some of the things so that we can do it at a larger scale now?
So the business was simpler when it was smaller. It's kind of Captain Obvious, right? But it was simpler when it was obvious, and the day-to-day was simpler. You come in, you make sure we have these trucks that go out and service accounts. Some of them are accounts that have consigned inventory, so they're going out checking the consigned inventory and, selling batteries, and other trucks that are going out delivering to order. And you just, make sure those get on the road, and, you're like, okay, busy morning, busy afternoon, middle of the day, I can kind of do some stuff. I can, I can look at things. I can look at the accounting. I would sneak off and chip some balls, or, it sounds like you've had Steve Cameron on before.
Yeah.
Sneak off and play golf with him every once in a while, and then back in the afternoon. But then as the business has things have gotten busier, and my golf clubs are in the garage. I look at them, I long for them, but they're in the garage. So things can get busier, and there's this constant battle you have with doing too much and not being able to then set the vision for the company. And then you get to a certain point, there's a bunch of stuff you have to do, and you're looking for qualified people to do it. So maybe you're doing stuff you really know that you should not be doing. So you're trying to replace yourself in that, so that you can get to a different position and be back in the area of supplying vision, direction to the business. Because really, that's what I should be doing at the place I am. I should be making it as easy as possible for my guys to do their job, and making sure that we have a vision for where we want to be in 5 and 10 years. So, and it's a constant battle, because you sometimes don't have the skills you need, especially my size business. We're about 22, 23 people. So my size business, there are times that you're just lacking. So there's this constant battle of, I'm doing too much day-to-day busy work, I'm not providing vision, and how am I going to do that? And how am I going to do better for the guys? I'm trying to figure out what's good for them, a good 401k, a good health insurance. All that stuff takes time, And if you're too busy in the day to day, you're not going to find something good for them.
Mm-hmm.
So, but like I said, none of it really I would consider glamorous.
Yeah.
There's a lot of nuts and bolts to running a business, and there's systems. This unplanned expansion we had up north is because the area up north was not being managed well. So there was battery shortages. There's deliveries not being made. There were customer service issues. And once we got to realize they didn't have the processes and systems in place. So we're right now, I told you before we started, I was up in Prescott Valley today at my warehouse up there working on the systems we need, figuring out what we're going to need as far as hardware and what type of systems we're going to need to take it forward, get it. We think we're at a point where we think it's stabilized up there. Now how are we going to grow? And we're going to grow by having a system that people can understand where their place is and how they're going to do their work, and then we can go out and explain it to our potential customers. So, and
is that a system with personnel? Is it with inventory? All of it?
It's everything. It's personnel. It's processes. It's definitely inventory. Besides my people, which I consider a valuable asset, inventory is my next biggest. So we're not necessarily a service company. We're a distribution company. So inventory is big.
Yeah.
So keeping track of that inventory is a big deal, and paying for it, of course.
Yeah. And then you talked about this expansion being unexpected, but as you have expanded throughout the years, what are the key markers that you look for in terms of, hey, this is the appropriate time for expansion? Is there a certain financial marker that you guys look for? Hey, when we're doing X% of this number right here, that means that we've probably hit our capacity and we need to start either bringing in new team members, or if we have a new brick and mortar to house all the inventory that we've got going on. Do you look at personnel as in terms of we're bursting at the seams in terms of work and we need to bring more people in? So does that demand more on the expansion side? How do you try and look at some of those metrics to know this is the appropriate time to make a move?
I think the first thing is opportunity. Okay, is there opportunity out there? Let's for instance, let's say 2-3 years ago, EVs. Everyone's going to be driving EVs by 2030. And you're thinking, well, how's my business look? I'm selling batteries for IC. What's the term now? Is IC, right? Internal combustion. It's the IC. I'm selling batteries for IC, and everyone's going to be electric vehicle 2030. And so you start thinking, well, is there opportunity to expand? If not, what other opportunities are there? I don't have to just sell batteries all my life. What do I do? Do I start transitioning to something else? But as time's gone on, it's pretty clear EVs are not going to be anywhere close to an answer. It's in fact, I was doing a SWOT analysis. I don't know if you guys ever talk about technical stuff with business, but strengths, weaknesses.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think we talked about that with Gordon Henderson. It's Steve's business partner, and that's the first time I had heard about it. So.
Okay. So when I looked at it, I used to be, our weaknesses, and I was looking at things that could cause disruption in the business. And one of the top things I wrote 2 years ago was EV. And this year recently I was presenting just kind of an outlook to some guys, and I left that up there, but I put a line through it. And they're like, hey, what's that mean? Usually you wouldn't even list it. I go, EVs are not going to be what people think. There's a lot of issues, but the cost, what it takes to mine these minerals, how are we going to charge these things, the range they can cover. When a Ford truck can go 168 miles on flat ground, who's going to drive a Ford truck? So I'm thinking there's a lot of EVs. Not 2030 is maybe 2050, maybe not. But so that's one of the things. So now that's kind of fading. I'm like, okay, what opportunities are there? I'm like, the field's wide open again. There's cars all over the place. Batteries are getting much more. There's a lot more types of batteries. So it gives us opportunity because I'm a battery specialist. A small shop isn't going to have a lot of batteries. Or an auto parts store, they're going to have batteries, and it's going to be a big line, but they're not going to be looking at them like I am. So there's a lot of opportunity here, and the market's growing, about 2.5% a year, and you think that's not much, but when it's like a $8 billion market, 2%'s not bad.
No.
So you look at opportunity. So it's like, okay, if there's opportunity, then you look, okay, what do I invest in to take care of this, to grow this? I need people, I need vehicles, I need technology. The better the technology we have, the more we can do. A lot of times, 40 years ago, businesses were limited by their technology. So you had a lot of small mom and pops because you couldn't string a bunch of stores together and have any scale at all. But now with technology, you can put a lot together. So you can put a lot of the same businesses together. And that's what you see, like even around the corner here, you see these small shops that are now, a lot of these shops, they'll open 2, 3, 4 stores, and it's easy. They've got systems, they got technology, they can do it.
It's just a copy paste at that point.
Copy paste. No, you still need the people. That's the deal. You need people. So I think I've gone so far, I forgot what your question was. So we might have to come back to the question.
Yeah.
What do you do? First thing is that. The other thing is making sure that you are managing your profit so that you have the ability to pursue business. And I am. You just got to remember, business. Any debt you take on, you've promised future profit to that, plus the cost of the earning. So debt can be a real killer in a business. So, people don't like to talk about cash being king, but when you have money to take advantage of opportunity, you can take advantage of opportunity. You don't have to go out and. You definitely want a good banker. You want to have a good relationship with your banker, but you also want to have the ability to jump on an opportunity. So keeping yourself in a very low debt structure, especially if the economy looks pretty iffy right now. So there's going to be a lot of people with a lot of debt that are going to have issues. And, commercial paper doesn't go 30 years. It refinances every 2, 3, 4 years. So
the interest rates are always moving on that.
Interest rates are always moving. You don't get businesses don't get 30-year loans. When you so if you borrow money and you borrowed money 3 years ago at 3%, and
all of that's coming to maturity.
It's time to the bubbles come and due, and usually all you do is you roll it. You refi that and get your next 3% loan. Well, now this one's going to be 7.25%. And it's like, okay, my debt payment just went way high. So I think that's one of the things you have to think about is making sure that you keep capitalized well enough to take advantage of opportunity. When you're growing, when you're young and you're growing, you really don't have that. And so you need to be careful to say, hey, I need to stay in a position where I'm growing, but I'm not getting too much debt, and getting to a point where I really want to not have debt by this point. And, that was, looking back, when I bought my mom out, I had debt. Yeah, but the goal was to get rid of that debt and get to a point where I was building capital so that I could take advantage of an opportunity. And this North Arizona came up, and I was able to take advantage of that opportunity because I had set aside money to pursue opportunities. So that's the other one: opportunity, capital structure, people. It's getting more difficult to hire people right now. So when you're looking at an opportunity, one of the things might be, hey, is it a self-serve? Not a lot of them aren't, but a lot of it is deciding, can I recruit the right people with the right skills to grow this business? And if not, do I have other options? How trainable is it? So you have opportunity, capital structure, and then the cost of the business. What's it going to cost time-wise, people-wise? Me as a distribution center, we've outgrown our warehouse. That's a big problem.
I've seen that happen before.
Yeah. So when we moved into it, we didn't think it'd be a big deal. We had tons of space, and at that time we had just lost a really major account. I'm like, what am I going to do with all this space? Now we have zero space, and fairly landlocked, but we have an excellent position. We have an excellent location that can handle retail sales. So my all battery center I have an all battery center in the front of my warehouse, and there's no way I want to move that all battery center because we're on a major thoroughfare.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm going to grow more, okay, it's going to include land somewhere. It's going to include some sort of expansion of my current warehouse. It's probably a no. Well, it's a big territory. Probably having a second warehouse is probably the place to be anywhere. The Northern Arizona has its own warehouse that we've expanded to. So you have opportunity, capital, personnel, and then what's it going to look like? Do I even have the ability to do this? Do I have the systems necessary? The people I have right now, can they go to the next level? That's a big deal. If you have a certain skill, they might not be able to move to the next skill. A controller isn't necessarily a CFO. They might be a great controller, but stepping into a CFO position might not work.
How do you go about developing the team that you have and evaluating those skills to see if someone is ready to go to the next level? As far as to say, I think a lot of people who are leaders inside of a business, they're geared very much towards how do I get to that next level? How do I become the person who's appropriate to fill the shoes at that next level? But sometimes you don't have employees that have the same drive. So how do you take the time or even just try and set a standard for the people to say, hey, it's here's the vision of where we're going. Here's how we're going to try and live into that.
A lot of it is just like you said. Hey, here's the vision. Someone says, well, I want to be there. It's like, great. This is what it's going to take to get there. So you start working with that person and give them some assignments. Say, hey, take this, run with it. See how they do. Don't tell them how to do it. Give them some pointers and stuff, but see if they're able to think. Because the big thing with someone that's going to move up in an organization is they're going to have to be able to think on their feet. They're going to have to be able to get stuff, to execute. And so you see, can this person get it done? And can they communicate the vision of the business? So I think that's the biggie, is setting it in front of them, giving them opportunity and saying, yeah, or yeah, maybe not, Because a lot of times you're giving that person an opportunity because they're really good at what they're doing then. And in my view, I never want to elevate a person beyond what they want to be and beyond what they're able to do. If they're very happy doing what they're doing and they don't desire more, they're probably not going to do well with more. So, just in the last few years, I've realized that I need to continue to develop myself. So I've actually joined a forum of C-suite executives called C12, which is it's a pretty neat organization, and it's a Christian organization about taking God to the workplace, and it's been really good for me in developing the skills and the outlook I need to be a better leader in that business, and to even prepare to take it further. So, Christian executives, Christian CEOs, I'd recommend looking into C12. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
There's a tidbit there. A plug. I'm not being paid by C12.
I want to come back to the C12 thing and how faith influences your work. And I know you've hit on it a little bit already. I asked this question to Gordon Henderson and about if someone wants to come into a company and say, how do I become an executive inside a company? And if you were to say, okay, I'm coming alongside them as a mentor, here's the steps you're going to need to take. Let me give you the roadmap. Now it's up to you to go execute it. What does that look like? And part of this came out of a conversation I had with a bunch of friends, and they work in larger corporate jobs. A lot of them are remote, so some of them are real estate trusts or just national or international businesses of that nature. And they talk about how some of the executives seem like they either don't know what they're doing, or it's because of a relationship inside the business. So it made me really start thinking, is it really just a fraternity, or is there something that really leads the people to go from, hey, I got from A to B, here's how I did it? And that's kind of stuck with me, and I've started to want to pick people's brains about it, because it's made me start to think, okay, is there a warped perspective on the employee side, or just from your perspective, if you were to say, I'm the mentor to give someone a roadmap, how would you start to lay that out for someone?
So one of the things to keep in mind is picture climbing a mountain. So you climb up 100 feet and you're starting to see a little of the forest. And you climb up 500 feet and you're getting a really good view. And say you keep climbing and you get up and you're in Colorado and you do a 14er. And then you're standing up and you can see everything, and you're looking all around and you're seeing a vision of everything. And that's what you have to realize when you're starting out in a business, is you're at 100 feet and your boss is maybe at 500 feet. And the other executives are further up the mountain, and a lot of them are standing on top of the mountain seeing the whole picture. So decisions they make you might think are stupid, but you can't see the next valley over that there's a dam about to break. So I think it's important to understand that, yes, you're going to have, I've told my kids this, you're not going to have a whole lot of good bosses in your life. Just understand that. There's good businesses and there's good bosses, but you're gonna, especially in a large organization, you're gonna have that. And yeah, there's a certain amount of who you know, but understand you can do that too. Make sure you're known in the business, and make sure that in that business they look at you as, hey, that's a guy, that's a stand-up guy, or that guy, his work is good. Not perfect, because don't get stuck in perfectionism, but man, he does excellent work. And getting to know people, so I say it who you know in that way. Yeah, there's who you know in another way, like, hey, my cousin needs a job.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we'll have him do this.
But
So
you're putting the responsibility of the relationship back on the person, rather than saying, hey, it's not just because those two were buddies. It's because that guy didn't know that guy, but he was in the circles and he made himself available through his good work.
Yeah, and I've seen in business, I've seen a CEO come in and hire guys who were competent, but they were really college friends, and now they're like 30 years on, and none of them did well. So, if you're an executive and you're thinking about hiring a friend, you need to be really careful, because you're not going to see clearly that person. So, to an executive, you say, think really hard about, your college buddy who seems to be what you're looking for. Maybe you should ask some other folks who'll tell you that, give you a real perspective. But if you're at that bottom level, be known. What does the Bible say about a good reputation? The Bible tells us that a good reputation is worth lots and lots of gold. So having a good reputation inside of the business is really important. You don't want to be known as a slacker, or, that guy gets here on the dot and leaves on the dot. That always bothers me. I get guys that, they come in, say they're supposed to be in at 7. They arrive, they come running in at 7. I'm like, what if you had one extra light?
Mm-hmm.
But the guys there that 20 till 7, and he's getting ready to work, and he's maybe having a cup of coffee, but he's, I'm like, you know what? This guy's here. He's not like, and he's not putting his track shoes on at 4, ready to run out at 4 in 3 seconds. So don't be known as that guy. Be known as the guy who comes and does really hard work. But I don't think you should be known as the guy who's married to the job either. I don't think that's a biblical perspective on work. So remember, Psalm, was it 127 or 27 says he gives to his beloved in their sleep. And you need to understand that God can bless us for our hard work, even in our sleep. Don't stay up all night working. But yeah, so there might be stuff you disagree with your boss, or you look at him, you're like, learn from that. Say, that's not going to be me when I'm there. And or you might figure out, oh, he had to be like that for this reason. So give them a little slack, and realize that sometimes their experience you'll see the wisdom in their experience when you're a little older. It's like, when you're kids, you're like, I didn't realize how smart my dad was until I was 30. It's like, oh, same thing. But yeah, you're going to have that. I mean, we're in a broken world, and businesses, there's a lot of broken people in business, and you're just going to see a lot of that. And some of it you can't write. You can certainly try to move to the next group if the job opening comes, but some of it, learning to work under a difficult boss, or even an unrighteous boss, there's a lot to be learned. First Peter talks about that. Joseph had a little experience with that, and he did okay. So, don't be too focused on your boss's shortcomings.
Gotcha.
Focus on your work.
Going back to the C12 thing real quickly, what does that look like? Is it a monthly thing where you guys meet up, and how, obviously it's like the iron sharpens iron. So what does that look like for you guys as far as it's?
Yeah, so we meet monthly, and there's a curriculum you go through, and there's a pattern it follows. Like right now, this last period of the year, we're setting goals for next year. We're evaluating the goals we have for this year. How we did. Did we even get close? Did we accomplish them? When we accomplished them, were that what we had hoped? So there's curriculum that we study about some of the technical aspects of business, money management, personnel, all kinds of stuff like that. There's also an opportunity for us to bring our issues in our business and get some wisdom from other leaders. So put it on the board, explain it, and get their wisdom. Say, what are you thinking? A lot of them have been through the same thing. Also, at least once a year or so, you present your business in detail. And sometimes it's you feel a little naked up there because you're explaining it, and the guys start asking questions. You're like, I can't answer that, or no, I don't do that. And so it can be humbling, but it's also, like you said, iron sharpening iron. And it has been very good, very positive for me.
So as you're going into, as we're finishing up the fourth quarter, something that I feel like I've struggled with is projections. And I've been talking to a gentleman recently about this, as far as it's like, I was very into athletics and weightlifting, and I would always be very like, all right, here's the goal. I'm going to try and put like 40 pounds on my bench press this year. We're going to do the same thing next year. And then it doesn't happen the first year. And so now I need to do 60 the next year. And I don't know how I'm going to do 60 because I didn't get 40 the last year. So it's kind of turning my attention to the business side. This gentleman was telling me like, hey, you need to build out a projection for what the business is going to look like, so you understand your numbers and you know if you're actually viable or not. And I was like, well, I don't even know where to begin because I've struggled with that. How do you guys go about creating your projections for the years ahead? You've even alluded to some of the financial markets not being super optimistic because we've got just different factors as far as if it's debt or some companies that are just struggling, and there might be different factors that seem to be kind of propping up a facade or whatever it is. But how do you guys go about creating your projection leading into 2024?
So, what's interesting about the final number, your goals, the final number, is I think that's probably less important than the process.
Okay.
Because the process, you're studying your numbers. Mm-hmm. And you're trying to figure out your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities you might have. So you're looking really hard at that. And yeah, you get a few, maybe you get some KPIs you want to hit, key performance indicators. Sorry, I don't want to talk, jargon. But you get some stuff you're pursuing. But the real work has been why you're going to pursue that number. You've been looking back and you're like, hey, we've done this. This looks good. This area looks good. I think we can grow this, 15%. This area is lacking. We're probably going to be even on that. But the only way you know that is by looking at them. Mm-hmm. So the process is probably the most important part, is because now you're taking a hard look and you're deciding what can we pursue. So yeah, just like, weightlifting, it's like, yeah, I'm going to do this, but then you have, actually my genetics tell me that I'm getting close to where I'm going to start slowing down or, I'm old now. So yeah, it can be frustrating. They talk about budgeting and this and that, and, you're never, it's hard as an engineer. You always want to hit it on the number, and you're not going to hit the number. You're going to make your best. I'm not going to say guess. You're going to make your best projection of what you're going to do if things are how you see them. Mm-hmm. And so you can't see the unexpected. But hey, if we can do business this way with this system, pretty sure we can do this. And you operate on that. If something comes up, then you're like, okay, we can pivot, or this is going to affect us in this way. You talk about, you'll hear all these, everyone's beating their earnings projections right now. It's because 2 quarters ago they lowered them. But no one tells you, hey, you should look back 2 quarters ago. They said the earnings for this quarter were going to be, $4 a share. Mm-hmm. And now that their earnings are $2.70 a share. But hey, we're at $3.20. Well, you were at $4 last year. So, as you're going after your goal, you're always adjusting.
Yeah.
And saying, okay, we're doing this, we're doing that. And I think some of the most important things are goals as to how the company's going to be health-wise. We want to reduce debt. We want to do this. We want to be here, and those are biggies. And then, if you have a really good way of figuring out top line and how that falls to bottom line, that's great. Some of the goals might be with a young company. How are we going to figure top line? What are we going to do? What do we need to do to grow to this?
Right.
Is it reasonable?
Yep.
Or is this like, oh yeah, this is pie in the sky?
Yep.
And sometimes you have like what you might said is, hey, this, and this. So it's high, medium, low. We need to pursue high, but we think we'll probably hit medium. But if we pursue high, maybe we'll hit it. If you aim low, you're always going to go low.
Right.
So, so when you're setting that, a lot of it is talking to your folks, saying, "Hey, what do you think?" Like our all battery business is a little bit soft right now. We really thought it would be up about 4 or 5% this year, and I think we're down about 2%. Why is that? Well, now we're looking. We're like, so with this process, we're looking at certain accounts and saying, why aren't they doing what they did? Is it competition? Are they less busy? We're finding out a lot of them are less busy. So we're like, okay, that makes sense. Is there another field we can go into where someone's busy?
Yeah.
So
do you guys then look for input metrics that you can push into? Because obviously there's the idea as far as we could create a top line projection, but we're not always in control of where that top line ends, but we have control of what we have control of the amount of actions we take. So is that something that you guys really try and emphasize as far as, hey, we have a track record, so we have a history, so we understand we were anticipating 4% growth, but it was actually 2%. So do you go in your investigation of, hey, what's going on? Is a part of it to say, were we doing the correct amount in sales? Where were we lacking? And going into the next year, is there more of an emphasis on hitting those numbers because those are more controllable compared to the top line, or does it kind of all blend together?
Yeah, so a lot of it is looking, again, you're setting your top line numbers, then you're looking at what activity will get you that. And so that activity is a lot of times that's a lagging indicator. What's really hard to find is leading indicators. Like, what do we do that is going to produce this? Because a lot of times when you're doing your key performance indicators, a lot of those tend to be lagging. So it's like, oh, we did this. Well, that doesn't help you predict what you're going to do. So finding, like you said, finding the inputs that are going to tell us ahead of time that we're going toward our goal, those are golden. So we're always looking for that. It's like, what sort of activity does this? And so we know in our business, a certain amount of sales activity does that. But we also know that we have certain, because stuff has gotten so big, and so many businesses are tied together, we have a lot of stuff that has to be negotiated on the national side. So we know that the thing we have to do is guarantee a reputation so that when we're working on the national, that our reputation in the field, all of us distributors, is that they get it done. So we know, so the performance indicator there is on time and full deliveries. Like with Toyota winning their Platinum Award, that's big.
Yeah.
So that stuff says, okay, we'll probably get that contract re-signed. So if we're delivering on time and in full, and our customers, our national account customers are very happy, we know that that's going to go up the chain. So we know that gives us a great opportunity to retain the business. Very competitive business. So we know that doing that on our level is what allows us to continue to sign more and retain national accounts. A lot of it's like, I look really hard at activities. What activities make us work, do us well, and what is efficient? Because when you're delivering heavy batteries that spoil in big trucks, there's a lot of room for waste. So it's always, how do we do it efficiently, and how do we cut down our waste? Because batteries expire, 5-6 months on a shelf, and they need to be recharged. Very expensive to do.
Really?
Yeah. So it's we have to pick them up, bring them back, charge them, redistribute them. Extremely expensive. So if we're managing our stock levels in the field, we cut that down too. So there's again, managing activity.
That's awesome. All right. We've crossed the hour mark, so I've got a couple quick questions for you before we get out of here. What is the most impactful thing you've learned?
God gives the increase.
What's your favorite movie?
Shooter.
Your first character strength that comes to mind?
Integrity.
What's your favorite brand of ice cream?
That's not even close. Bluebell, the best ice cream in the country.
I saw that on your Facebook. So,
Did you?
Yeah. I was curious to see.
That's good, because I don't, and we know we didn't talk about social media, but I'm just not a social media guy. so that's probably like from 10 years ago.
It was from a while ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then where can people follow what you guys are doing, or if someone wanted to reach out, what would be the best way for them to do that?
So the business is Interstate Battery of Arizona. Reaching out would be probably emailing or calling. Like I said, the killer app for me is not social media. It's YouTube. So you will not see much of me on YouTube, on Facebook, Instagram, X. I just forget to check those things. I'm so busy that it's just not something that's part of my life. So probably contacting the business. I'm glad to talk with people, but you probably won't be able to see much of me. I guess I could use a social media manager. Probably hire one of my kids. They'd be good at that.
There you go. Cool. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
All right.
Good time.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. And until next time, I hope your hammer stays accurate, your Wi-Fi fast, and your work blessed. See everybody. Cool.
Okay.
That was a good one.
We got about 30% of the questions, didn't we?